Hello there, Wazak here. Today we are going to take a look at 3D product visualization in Cinema 4D, and for this session we are going to learn how to texture, model and lighten this product by Dior right inside Cinema 4D using Corona Renderer. Let's go. Here we are in Cinema 4D, and the first thing we want to do is to go to the orthogonal views, the front view, and load in the reference image. So I'll just go up here, this mini menu bar up here, and click on options and go to shift. I can also hold shift and V to open the configure settings, and over here in the back tab I'll just click on that and load in the reference image we downloaded. So I'll just load that in and reduce the size from 800 to 100, and there we have it. So the next thing I will do is to increase the transparency down here. I will create a new cylinder. We are going to model this one first, so I'll just create a cylinder and move it there. And let's go back to the orthogonal views, the configure, and offset this a little bit on the X plane. Okay, so that's okay for us. I'll just shape in this a little bit to get that's the purpose of the reference image, to be able to see the model and align them really well over there. So I'll go back to my perspective viewport and hit C on the keyboard and preview this to get my wireframe. So I'll just select the faces down here and delete all those faces. We don't need that. I'll do a loop selection. I can use UL on the keyboard to do that, by the way. So I just deleted that one, and I will loop select the edges over here, hold Control and scale it down a little bit, hold Control again and move it inside. Well, we don't need to really focus on the inside of this model because it's not really going to show in our render, so I'll just leave it like this. I'll go back to my front view, but before I do that I'll create a subdivision surface, drop this model in and name this head. I'm not really good with names, but hey, I'll call it head. And yeah, rename the object to and name that one to head. Okay, let's deactivate that and go back to the front view and loop select these edges where we have the extra detail. So I'll just loop select that, and don't forget you can use UL on the keyboard to select that, and I'll right click and select bevel and bevel those edges out. Now we need to select the faces. Let me just bevel it again. Okay, that's cool. I'll just select the faces, loop select the faces, UL again, and select all these faces here and do extrude. Right click and select extrude, or press D on the keyboard and extrude this inside. Let's check the reference image. I think that's okay, and this is okay, so we can activate the subdivision surface again, and that is cool, that is nice. So it's really smooth. So what I'll do is I'll add a couple of edges here. So I'll right click and select path or loop cut to add more details here, and when I render this you can see it's more than okay. This will work for us. So I'll add some extra loop cuts here and some here, just like that. So I'll just go around the object and add extra edges, loops, to make this a little bit realistic as it is in the model. So I'll just do that. Okay, let's render that out. It looks good. So but we need to add some here inside the product and here at the base. So I'll just add a couple of loop cuts here and there, add some here too, and yeah, we are good to go. So now let's activate the subdivision surface. And alright, so one thing I forgot, in the front view, let's just go back to the front view and offset this a little bit so that the base of the reference image, that is our perfume, sits on the intersection. This point, this is where the X, the Y and the Z axis intersect. That is the center of our universe, so we need to make sure the base sits on this. So I'll just do that, and after that I'll select my object here, the one we just modeled, and move that to where it's supposed to be. Activate that again, and yeah, that's what we need to do. So let's move on to the next object. I'll create another cylinder scale this a little bit and move it to fit the reference image. Okay, so that's cool. I'll hit C on the keyboard to convert it to editable poly. So the model here that we have, our reference image, the model over here, this part of it is not really straight, it's a little curvy. We need to consider that a model that's as exactly as it is. So I will just delete the surfaces here, we don't need that. I'll loop and select the edges here, move this a little bit, scale it and move it up here, right about there. Scale it again, holding control and moving this there. I think that is too much, so I'll loop select the edges that I created and scale it. Make sure you always move to your front view. I keep going back to my front view because I need to make sure this is, really precise. I'll edge select this, loop select the edges here and move that down a little bit. I think this will work for us. So let's check the reference image again. We can see the curves here and the curves down there. That is what we are trying to recreate here. So let's go back to Cinema 4D, come down here and let's rename this glass. Click and drag this into a subdivision surface. Oh, I just created a subdivision surface and I dropped our glass object in just like we did for the plastic head. Okay, so I'll deactivate that, add a couple of edge loops here just like we did to make this a little bit precise. I think that will work for us. Come down here and add a couple here. That is great, that's okay. And add one here, add another here too. You can press Q on the keyboard to activate or deactivate the subdivision surface. So that's what I've been pressing. Q on the keyboard will activate and deactivate it. So the reference image. So with the reference image, we have a curve inside here that we need to also consider. So I'll just do that because we need to make it a thick glass. That's one thing you should always do. Glasses are not flat, they are thick. So let's do that. I'll loop select the edges here, scale that, holding control, scaling that and moving it over here. I'll move on to my front view to get a better view of the position. So I'll scale this and move that here. I'm trying to just eyeball this and make it as proportional as possible. Move this down here right about there and hold control and scale this, move it down, hold control again and scale it and move it down. Now we need to close that polygon hole, so I'll just navigate inside my glass, right click and select close polygon hole and just click on that hole and we have that hole sealed. But we need to make sure we add a couple of edge loops inside to make that a little smoother because it's really looking weird now. So I'll just navigate into my model again and add a couple of edge loops, right clicking and selecting the edge loop tool or just pressing U and pressing L on the keyboard to do that. Let me just delete that and recreate it. It's always very difficult to navigate inside an object. Okay, so that is that. We have the model is ready, we have the plastic head ready, we have the glass body ready. So the next thing to do is to start lighting and texturing the product. So we can let's just create an extra detail here at the base, loop select this and move it right inside just a little bit. We can't really see the base of the reference image, but I'm just guessing the product is flat, so I'm just guessing that will just go in. So let's check what we did already. I did this yesterday as a test. That's what we're going to create. We're going to create something like this. The sky, we use an HDRi, so I'll just jump on and start texturing and lighten this. So I also did a couple of different styles using different HDRIs, and you can see the product stays the same, the lighting is just the same, just a different vibe, different energy. So let's go back to our projects, what we are working on, and continue. So With my process of lighting, what I do is I create a very simple corona sky. So let me just bring the corona tool set here, undock it and bring it down here. What I do is I create a simple sky, and I use the sky to texture my products. I don't really pay attention to the lighting setup, just something that will lighten my scene up to be able to see my textures, and I'll work on the texturing, I'll work on the shaders, and after that I can work on my lighting. So I'll just do that, click on Corona Sky over here to create a very simple Corona Sky. So click here and create a very simple Corona Sky, and change this from physical sky to shader or HDRi and load in a simple HDRi. I like to use one of my interior HDRIs. I downloaded this. I think it's a pack from, I've forgotten the name of the artist. I'll drop that in the description. So let's start our interactive viewport, and it looks good. Wall lights, no flat shadows, no, it's flat lighting, no harsh shadows. So we can hop on and start texturing. So let's start with the plastic head. So what I will do is I'll go down here to the material panel and click on Corona and create a Corona material. I will double click on the name here to change the name. I will name this plastic, and click and drag this material onto our object here. I'll double click on my material here to open the material editor, and the first thing I will do is to go here to a diffuse and change the color to something around here. I'll do a black material, but I like to keep my blacks between 3 to 5% over here, so I'll just do that and add some reflection, but make sure you reduce the glossiness a little. Nothing in this world is 100% glossy. Even a mirror is 99.9999%, so I'll just do 0.95 for the glossiness, and that's what we need to do for the plastic material. We are done. We are not going to touch it. Maybe we will come back here to change the reflective. That's if it doesn't really work with our lighting, but hey, that's what I need to do now. As simple as that. That's Corona for you, baby. So the next thing to do is to create the glass material. I'll close this and create a new material and name this glass, and I'll click and drag this onto our object here to apply it to the object. So I'll double click it once again to open the material editor. We are going to do a glass material, so we don't need a diffuse. All we need is a reflection and refraction, and that's what we need to do. We have a glass material. Let me just go up here and decrease the intensity of the light so that we can see the refractions really well. That is all you need to do for the glass material. Well, that is not all. One thing to do is to add caustics to your refraction, but hey, Cinema 4D is telling us caustics will slow down your render, but to get a realistic glass, what we need to do is to add the caustics. I just decrease the glossiness a little bit to 0.97 by the way, so I'll add the caustics here. It's going to be slow, but hey, that's what we need to do, right? Alright, so let's go check our reference image once again and see the next thing we need to do. So over here you can see it's not really transparent. We need to add this darker blue refractive color here. Down here it's really transparent, but over here it's sort of like translucent, opaque up here. So let's go into Cinema 4D and create the same thing over there. So what we need to do is to use a gradient to control the refraction. So I just come in here and load in a gradient. So I'll just add that black and white gradient, and you can see here in the viewport it's working. So we need to enhance this a little, so I'll change this from U to V, that's from horizontal to vertical. Right click this, we need to flip this, right click here and go to and select invert gradient to have it flipped over there. So the projection is not really right. Checking the reference image here, it's one uniform gradient and we have like a tile here. So I'll just click here, we need to fix that and change it from UVW mapping to cylindrical, and by just doing that we have a perfect distribution of our gradients here. That's all we need to do, but the color is not black, it's a darker blue, and we are using the default gradient colors to do that. So I'll just double click on my material again and change the black here to the darker blue. Let's just save this, all right, that's great. So I just double click on the gradient on the color here and select a darker blue. I can use the eyedropper color here and navigate to my computer and select like a darker blue. That should work. That is okay. I love this color, even though it's not really right, but hey, it will work for us. So the next thing to do is to work on the label. We are done with the plastic material, we're done with the glass material. So the next thing to do is to do the label, and yeah. So let's go down here, click on Corona new material, and create a new material. Now we need to rename this material label, so I will just do that. Alright, so we are going to use the material stacking procedure in Cinema 4D to create the label on top of this glass material. Corona Render for Cinema 4D supports that. I've prepared a tutorial already. You can click here to check that tutorial on how to use the material stacking technique to create abstract materials. Now we are not going to create an abstract material today. We are creating a label on top of the glass material. It's the same process, and as I said, Corona Render support that, and that is one reason why I always use Corona Render for my product visualization. So I have two materials here. I'll just double click on my material to open my material editor, and let's work on this. So I'll add a little bit of reflection and change the glossiness, decrease this to about 0.65 here. Use something that will work for you. So I've prepared an image here for the opacity channel. So I'll just load in this black and white image. Now the opacity channel works just like masking in Photoshop, where black parts will be hidden and white parts will show. So I didn't really get their fonts and their labels, so I recreated that in CorelDRAW. Yes, I still use CorelDRAW, and that is my vector software, the vector software I use, so it's cool. So I created that. That's just, by the way, I used that to create that. Let's stop the interactive renderer and load in the image here in the diffuse. Now I'm doing this because the viewport doesn't really show the opacity channel, and we need some sort of like a reference here, the reference for the material, so that we can position the label. So I'm just going to load that in the diffuse channel, but I'm not going to show that in the render. I'll delete that when I'm done. So now we have that. Over here, let's zoom in. You can see the material is affecting some part that we don't really want. This is like weird. That's because we didn't create a selection for the label here. So I'll just select the faces and apply the material again, and that should work for us. So let's go here and loop select the faces we want the label to be applied to. So I'll just select those faces, go up here, select, and set a selection. Now what set a selection will do is it will record that selection, so we can click and drag that selection into a material. So I just select the material here in the material tag over here, and click and drag that selection we just created into the selection option here. And by just doing that, you can see now the material is affecting just the selected part. That is a very simple way to also fix this issue. So now let's go back to the camera we created and use make sure you change the projection from UVW mapping to cylindrical. So I'll just use the offset and lens options here on the U and the V to move and scale my label. So I'll just offset this about there and use the lens to also change the lens. But one thing you need to do is to make sure you have tile deactivated. We don't need this material tiled, we just need just one of that. And now you can see with the tile, it's weirdly awesome, really weird. All right, that's just by the way. So let's just offset this and scale this. I'll just offset and scale till we get a perfect shape and a perfect position. You can also select the material tag and go to texture mode and just move or rotate just like you would do with any other object. So I will just scale this right there and move it to fit my products. Alright, don't forget to go back to your diffuse channel and delete the label. We only use that because we wanted it to show in the viewport. Now we can just go here and clear it, and now you have a white glossy material here, and start your interactive viewport, and voila, there you go. So it's very simple. We are almost done, 90% done. Now what we need to do is to make this render pop. Now this render is boring. I think it's boring. I think we can add a little storytelling to this, maybe an outdoor scene or something. Let's do a quick one. This is like a bonus to the tutorial. I'm going to show you guys how I did this in the previous video. So if you didn't join my live video, I did this was actually a live video on Instagram, and I recorded it, and I'm using this for a tutorial on YouTube. So if you join, you remember we did this wonderful scene, and I'm just going to recreate that in no time. Well, I think the position is not really right, so I'll just go back here and use the offset and the line to position this and scale this right, because I can see some faint white line here on top there, which is like not really good. I think the opacity channel has some white outline or black outline there, so let's just fix that. All right, great. So let's go check the other render. All right, so let's group this and name this Dior, and we can go back here and check the other render. So this is what we did for the live video. It looks good. I will show you in a bit how to create this water surface. Okay, so to do that, we are going to create a plane, change the width and height segment to 100, and let's show the wireframe so that we can see what's going on in our scene. I'm just going to create a deformer, a displacer object. I'm going to create a displacer object and make that a child of our plane object here. Go to shading tab, and for the shader, I'm going to load in a noise. Now this noise is going to control our displacement. So the white parts will be the part that will be extruded, and the black parts will just stay flat. So I can go in here into my noise channel and change stuff like the global scale, and it's awesome. This is a very quick way to create a water surface. I'll change the noise from noise to FBM. It's really detailed. I'll just scale this right there, and that should work for me. I think the plane is too small, so I'll just select my plane object and make it bigger, but we need to compensate that here with the noise. So I'll just go back to my noise here and increase the value here, the global scale, to get I think that should be okay. And yes, you guessed right, we need to create a subdivision surface, drop that in to get a more smoother polygon. So I'll just do that and start with interactive viewport, and already you can see some sort of water surface. We need to enhance this a little, but before we do that, let's create a new material that is going to be the water material. So water, no diffuse. All we need to do is to add reflection and refraction, and change the refraction to 1.533. that's the refraction index for water. All right, so I'll just deactivate this sky here, duplicate that, and load in a different HDRi, something dramatic. I'll use this one here. It's an exterior HDRi. I'll load this one here called sunset in. All right, so that's cool, really working. Nice reflections, nice label. That's what you need to do. That is the tutorial. That is how to model, texture, and lighten this. But hey, let's make the water surface a little realistic. Let's just go back here, change it to gel shading, and go here into the shading and decrease the strength of the displacer. And by just decreasing the strength, we can see it's sort of like flattening out the water surface, we need like a calm water. So I'll just select my plane here and move it somewhere here, just that, and start my interactive viewport, and that is that. Now with the background, the HDRi, I'll just offset this because I don't need to show these buildings there. I think I could have used a better HDRi, but hey, that is the tutorial how to model, lighten and texture this perfume by Dior. What I do is I do create HDRIs, but I create additional light to add some specific details to my render. So I have this light here, scaled it a little, and let's move to our orthogonal views to position this light really well in our scene. Maybe decrease the intensity to about 5 watts here, and that looks cool, but it's showing in my render, so let's just make that too. It's showing in my render, so I'll just come here and hide it. So I'll select the light and deselect the visible directly here to disable the light in my scene, but the light is still showing in the reflections here. So I'll just go to exclude here and exclude this ocean plane here so that it doesn't really affect the ocean plane. And one final thing, it's casting a shadow, so I need to go back to the corona light and deselect occlude other light, and that will fix that. So, okay, so I want to duplicate this light, but before I do that, I'll right click on this light and select target over here and click and drag my Dior into the target tab here. I want to set a target for my light, so let's just duplicate that, and now where I move the light, it's going to face my target. So that is why I created a target. I use the target all the time when I'm lighting products, and it's very easy for you to move your product around and not mess the lighting position. So the target stays on your object, and now I can feel free to move my object around. So I'll move this right here to the far end and change the color to something like amber, maybe make it a little orange. Okay, let's deactivate the lights here so that we can see the full effect of this singular light here. Okay, maybe this orange will do. Let's activate our lights, bring back the HDRi, and yeah, that's your scene. So basically that is how to model, lighten and texture this my way using Corona Render for Cinema 4D. I hope you guys learned a thing or two. Alright, that is the end of the tutorial. If you enjoyed this session and you have any questions at all, please drop them in the comment section and I'll do well to answer all the questions you guys have. If you enjoyed the tutorial too and you want to see more from me, hit on the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss the wonderful content I have for you guys. Please follow me on Instagram and subscribe to my channel. Again, hit the bell icon right there. See you in the next one. Have a wonderful day.